Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Tuesday, it's the 4th of March 2025. It is Dimanche Gras around the world, many different carnivals happening across the region. And of course, this is program number 1330 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calixte Geaore Jr. Now, of course, in addition to 101.1 FM on radio, you can also get us at our website, rcistlucia.com. We are streaming live there. And we are also up and running on our website. You can get us streamed there as well. And if you want to check out our old shows, our previous shows, you can get them in MP3 format, downloadable on the website. And today, we want to remind you, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate, you can do just that. The number is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. We also are up on WhatsApp. That number is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. So we do hope that we can hear your voices today in the lunchroom. We want to send out some birthday greetings. First, a very regular listener of the lunchroom, Mrs. Jean Francis Francois. And she is celebrating her very, very special birthday today. Of course, you never mention a lady's age, and so we're not going to be doing that, but we're wishing her an absolutely fantastic birthday celebration. Hope it is very much an enjoyable one, a fantastic one for you. And also, we want to send out some birthday greetings to Mr. Kidron Gustav. Happy birthday to you, sir. Hope you're having a very wonderful and fantastic birthday as well. We're going to take a little trip down the history lane to see if some history for the day. We start off with some Russian history in 1238. It was called the Battle of the Sit River, where Mongol forces of Batu Khan overcame Russians under Yuri II. And that happened near the the town of Yaroslav in Russia, which ended Russian resistance at that time. In the 1801, Thomas Jefferson was the first United States president to be inaugurated in the new capital of Washington, D.C., Washington District of Columbia. 1861, Abraham Lincoln was also inaugurated on this day as the 16th president of the United States. 1902, a bit of car history here. The American Automobile Association was founded in Chicago, Illinois, AAA. 1933, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was inaugurated as the 32nd president of the United States. And he pledged to pull the United States out of the Depression, stating in his inaugural address that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And on this day in the year 2009, March the 4th, International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Darfur, becoming the first sitting head of state to have been indicted. We now move on to our dish of the day.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And of course, thanks for rejoining us here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. We enter a brand new month of March, and of course, it's good to be back on air with you. And of course, we want to extend our thanks to Mr. Urban Dolor, who held the fort for the past month. And of course, no doubt you guys had a good time with him. And certainly he will perhaps be missed by many as well. We hope you also missed. But we're back here on air and glad to be able to share again with our listeners. And of course, so much is transpiring in the world, in geopolitics, in economics as well, and it has certainly been a tremendous change of what has been the status quo for many, many, many decades now, in terms of global diplomacy, global alliances, global geopolitics. We'll no doubt get into that as well. And of course, even at the local level, we're seeing a ramping up of political activity. And just over the weekend, we witnessed a United Workers' Party, I think it was dubbed a convention. Uh, it was effectively a public meeting being held down in the community of Lakai, uh, really part of the constituency of Dennery South, although in that Mabuya Valley, the majority of which, in fact, is part of Dennery North. But that was an opportunity for the United Workers' Party to put forward some new candidates, some fresh faces. No doubt that is always welcome from a public perspective. Individuals quite often want to see some new faces and new ideas, new uh, younger faces perhaps as well. And so I think about 5 different individuals were brought forward for a number of constituencies, including that of Dennery North, a new individual coming forward there, albeit the last one, lady, she was actually, I think, doing some introductions there of the new candidate, had a run of it in the last general election against Honorable Sean Edward, who was in fact held that seat from since 2006. And of course, others looking to vie for support in areas like Miku North. Miku North traditionally being a United Workers' Party stronghold, that entire Dennery Miku belt, Denmic, had been held by the Honorable John Compton, Sir John Compton, which he gained back in the 1950s for the first time, and created a sort of an impregnable wall by virtue of his own personal strength, enduring strength within that region, and by, of course, the reality that he eventually went on in 1964 to form the United Workers' Party. That seat had been seen to be for a very long time. That region had seemed to be a United Workers' Party area. Eventually, it was divided up into 4 seats, I think, by 1974. And of course, those seats began as United Workers' Party seats. But over the time, we've seen certainly changing hue in that region. More and more of it, in fact, becoming red over the period. So Dennery, at Dennery Miku area right now, 3/4 of it is actually held by Sinusha Labour Party candidates. And impressively, of course, the victory last time around in 2021 with Mr. Jeremiah Norbert. He, in fact, was able to pry that seat away from the traditional United Workers' Party candidates. And there he defeated Dr. Gail Rigobert, who had won that seat once before. And of course, a young candidate coming forward there. In fact, this instance, he's also being challenged by a relative of his, same last name. And so, of course, it'll be interesting to see how that seat continues to play within the politics of St. Lucia, given the fact that he was able to win it in 2021, although it was a traditionally United Workers' Party stronghold. Some other areas, of course, new candidates coming forward, I believe, for VA4 South and VA4 South, as well as Labrie Auger, 2 female individuals being put forward for those seats. And of course, They are going up in seats which are in fact traditionally um, supportive of the St. Lucia Labour Party, particularly so in the case of Labrie. Notably, I think the only time that Labrie was represented in the House of Assembly of St. Lucia by a person from a party other than the Labour Party was, in fact, during that 1987-1992 period, where, in fact, it was won by an MP under a Labour Party ticket, but then that individual went on to cross the floor. So, of course, one could argue a pretty uphill battle for a United Workers' Party candidate heading into that constituency of Labrie, currently held by the island's Minister for External Affairs, the Honorable Alva Baptiste. And in fact, we've been seeing quite a lot of interest in Labrie from the perspective of tourism. Just recently, in fact, I think they even had a little bit of a music festival down there. That was a tradition that they had been very strong in, and there were some very strong community groups in Labrie which promoted culture. We can, of course, think of the contributions of the late Yves Renard in that regard. Laboui Promotions, and they had their own jazz festival for a very long time, and they have their own steel pan group, and they've been able to have a very close-knit community dynamic in Labrie, which has made it pretty attractive. It's, of course, a very picturesque town along a pretty shallow bay, previously known as Ila Carre, or Turtle Cove, if you prefer. And they have been able to certainly develop a community-based tourism product, which has been seemingly the envy of a number of other communities like them who have not really been able to create that kind of vibe that they've been able to do with Labrie. And of course, we've seen a desire to provide new amenities and new infrastructure to be able to support some of that community tourism. I think quite soon they'll be opening up a new Labrie market in that community. So it'll be very interesting, of course, to see how that pans out for some of these candidates, of course, who are coming in as fresh individuals. And we'll have to see how they, in fact, can fare in that political realm. Of course, elections due in St. Lucia sometime next year, constitutionally, as it was, in fact, held back in July of 2021. We can roughly expect somewhere on or before that date, 5 years later, July 2026, for an election being held again here in St. Lucia. Now, of course, the matter of what one campaigns on is always pretty interesting. And according to what I think I saw as a sort of a banner of sorts on the lectern down at Lakai, there were 3 items that it would appear the United Workers' Party was putting forward as being considered critical to the St. Lucian electorate. And it was healthcare, crime, and the last one, cost of living. Healthcare, crime, and cost of living. And one can understand perhaps why those 3 things are being brought forward, especially, of course, the last one, cost of living. Because, of course, cost of living has been impacting St. Lucians, it's been impacting people across the Caribbean, it's been impacting people across the world for a good number of years now. We've seen from the start of COVID back in 2019, considerable disruption in the global economy. And the effects of that are still somewhat settling down at this point. Right now, countries are just getting back, especially countries that were dependent, let's say, on tourism, just getting back to where they were in terms of visitor arrivals, in terms of economic activity. But the production systems around the world were in very many places just completely shut down. And you had issues then of how to address ramping back up production, and the lack of production for a long time meant that people had to play catch up. And then, so in that playing catch up, there was a surge in demand in the post-COVID era for, especially in sectors like agriculture, like sectors like construction, for example. And so that led to, well, and even things like vehicles now, which, there was a surge in many areas in manufacturing. And that has caused distortions and difficulties in terms of the cost of products. Product prices went up. And unfortunately, in many instances, they have not actually come down. Of course, also the issue of energy has been another one. And part of that has been driven by the war and the challenges with respect to places like Ukraine, what that has meant in terms of the supply of things like natural gas to Europe, and the knock-on effects that has been had. We've been seeing these things, and cost of living has been a considerable issue in many, many parts of the world, including the country where we get most of our goods from, that of the United States of America. It is certainly astounding, some of the prices that one witnesses over there for many things, like, the traditional idea that fast food is cheap is no longer the case in much of the United States of America. And you're seeing the matter of food becoming pretty challenging. Now, here's a country, by some standards, the third largest country in the world, but certainly one of the largest agricultural producers in the world, the United States of America, perhaps only rivaled by that of China, and certainly a major exporter of agriculture, of food products. And they are having challenges internally as well in terms of production. And so a good example of that is the matter of eggs. Egg prices is a big issue right now over in the US, thanks to the avian flu. And that bird flu is something that we certainly need to be wary of in terms of our own agricultural production, albeit we have not yet been impacted in that same way. But in the case of the US, they have had to kill off nearly 10% of the birds that are actually producing eggs. And that has caused a significant rise in the cost of eggs in the United States of America. So just imagine paying over nearly $1.50 EC for an egg, and that's what you're looking at over there. So the issue of cost of living has certainly been a tremendous one, and unfortunately, the prospectus for that looking forward is perhaps not going to be too pretty. And of course, that has a lot to do with the new policy trade arrangements that are being brought forward by the new president of the United States, Donald Trump. He, of course, is promoting the placement of tariffs on goods to be imported from particular trading partners, and we should add major trading partners of the United States of America. You think back to the times of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. That was a major talking point for trade in between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. A lot of U.S. businesses shifted production into Mexico, for example, to be able to take advantage of some of this free trade area. We've seen what has occurred, of course, Canada, a major player for the United States in terms of their energy supply, lots of electricity, oil and gas coming out of Canada, and other products, agricultural products, and what have you. And so the thought that the United States is now, in fact, slapping tariffs on its two closest countries, north to Canada as well as south to Mexico, is certainly going to be going to have a significant impact on trade and the cost of goods that are entering the United States of America. Now, the way tariffs work, I mean, we use tariffs right here in St. Lucia all the time. We are import-dependent countries. Therefore, we don't have a strong manufacturing base. Our tax revenue is in large measure tied towards placement of tariffs on goods coming into the country. So effectively, we are taxing consumption, and we do so through a value-added tax. But of course, there are some excise taxes and duties that are in fact charged on certain items, maybe electronics and vehicles, equipment, that sort of thing. So we do have tariffs in, but we've seen for decades now, right, the promotion of free trade. Right. This is why we have the World Trade Organization, which was one of those institutions created to be able to promote this idea of fair trade and promoting trade across the world, and trade being seen as a positive thing for countries. Of course, in our case, it has not generally been positive, that experience with free trade, because we have seen how that has had debilitating impacts on sectors which we once were very much dependent upon here in the Caribbean, whether it was sugar or bananas, as the case was right here in St. Lucia and the Windward Islands. And we went through that entire period of actions being taken against the European Union for having protections and special treatment, differential treatment to these former colonies in the Caribbean and Africa and the Pacific, right? And these matters were taken up by U.S. companies, the United Fruits, the Chiquitas, the Doles, who felt that they were not getting the unfettered access for their dollar bananas getting into European markets, albeit that we were really a minuscule aspect within the entire global production. And here we are now with the United States of America certainly looking to slap tariffs on a number of its traditionally very close countries, but as well, of course, we do know that Mr. Trump has also been eyeing that of China, and the matter of trade with China is, of course, very much front and center in terms of a lot of the policies that he has been putting forward. And China, the factory of the world, as it is quite often seen, is a leading manufacturer in a lot of areas. You look at first in the world for a lot of things right now, and it is China. And we can well understand why. It's got the second most, for a very long time, the world's most populous country, just recently surpassed by India. And it is a leading power now, thanks to its manufacturing, thanks to its exports. And certainly, the United States is highly dependent on trade with China, just as China is, of course, highly dependent on the United States for as a market. But the idea now that we're going to be seeing tariffs from the country that we in fact import the most from, whether it is food, uh, whether it is equipment, you name it, we are going to be quite possibly facing an impending impact on the matter of cost of living. If you're going to see inflationary impacts coming out of products from the United States of America. So a lot of people have been suggesting that it might very well just be, again, the typical negotiating card of Mr. Trump, and he's trying to get his way on other things, other matters. But today the tariffs have hit, and it will be very interesting to see how that matter continues to pan out. There have been, of course, responses from the Mexicans and the Canadians in this regard. And it's interesting how, time and policies, geopolitics sometimes impacts the position of political dispositions of places, leading. We just saw, of course, a very tumultuous time for the Liberal Party in Canada. Mr. Justin Trudeau has indicated, of course, he's going to be retiring soon. There's an impending general election in Canada. And for a very long time, it was pretty certain that the Liberals were going to be out and the Conservatives were going to be sweeping into power in that next general election. But since the inauguration of President Trump and the rhetoric of Canada becoming a 51st state, the issues of this trade war, which is ongoing, what many people have seen as a lot of disrespect, and of course, some associations that exist between the head of the Conservative Party in Canada and being an advocate for MAGA, Make America Great Again. Many are, in fact, seeing that they may very well, in fact, what has happened in the polls is that there's been a significant shift away from Pierre Poilievre's Conservative Party and more towards the Liberals again, to the point where there's even a suggestion that the Liberals may very well be able to actually win this upcoming general election. So a significant backlash being caused by politics in the United States of America and Mr. Trump. So his ally is seemingly being impacted by his stances now towards Canada, and of course stances which we're seeing playing out on so many other different fronts, in terms of trade, in terms of immigration, in terms of the war in Ukraine. So very, very interesting times ahead, and how that is going to impact on politics in countries around the world is pretty evident. And so even in Europe, of course, as well, they've been going through a number of elections. Just recently, the German election, which was held on the 23rd of February, and the outcome there pretty close to what was expected, the Conservative win with Mr. Merz. But the ultra-right, the AFD, Alliance Alternative for Germany, they were hoping for a better outcome. We saw support coming from Republican individuals, Republican-aligned individuals, including Mr. Elon Musk. And we're seeing the backlash away from some of these individuals and these parties because of these alliances. Mr. Musk himself, some of his companies suffering because of his politics. Sales of Tesla, for example, down by over 40% in Germany. And not just there, but even in the United States of America, seeing the backlash in terms of sales there as well. So again, very, very interesting how we are seeing some decisions being made coming out of the United States of America, having direct impacts potentially on our own ability to survive. Another good example of that, very curious, at least, I mean, that's a very nice way of putting it, statement coming out of the U.S. State Department, headed by Mr. Marco Rubio, is of Cuban ethnicity, Cuban descent, and taking aim at Cuba and taking aim at countries that have effectively benefited from Cuban medical missions. And the argument being made by the State Department, by Mr. Rubio, is that Cuba is engaging in forced labor and forced labor through these medical programs. Very, very interesting comments, and they certainly will fly in the face of a lot of what we know right here in the case of St. Lucia, where had it not been for these Cuban doctors and nurses and medical professionals, we won't know where we be in terms of COVID-19 and up to today, where they are still a really important aspect of the delivery of medical services here in St. Lucia and across the Caribbean and across the world, in many other countries, in Africa, for example. Really important contributions being made by Cuban medical missions. Just recently, for example, you notice the Cuban Miracle Eye Clinic reopening as well. Important again for medical services, health services here in St. Lucia. And of course, we all know these individuals are paid. They're paid. They receive salaries like all other individuals who are providing those services. So perhaps the idea is of what is being spoken about, it does not somehow apply at all to the vast majority of these Cuban medical missions. Perhaps there's something that we're not aware of in terms of how those missions work in other countries. Of course, he pointed out Venezuela, particularly in that release. But that reality is clearly something that we are not familiar with. And God forbid these islands in the Caribbean and here right here in St. Lucia already having significant challenges with being able to deal with the attrition of health workers. These very same health workers attracted to the United States and other countries, developed countries, for employment, all right? Not forced labor, of course. And they are leaving our shores. Cuban doctors and nurses are holding the fort, helping out in tremendously in terms of services here. And, God forbid, we would have to end a program like that, right? So certainly we are looking at very, very challenging times with respect to this sort of new world order that we are unraveling and witnessing unraveling since the dawn, the inauguration of President Donald Trump. Of course, we're a little bit over time in terms of our dish of the day. So we're going to take a pause at this point, end our dish of the day, and head in to take in our weather report. Maureen will take us through that.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Certainly, it's now time we're going to take a look at the latest weather report as of 12 noon today, made possible by Island Style Tile and Bath.
Island Style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive. In Island style.
We have tiles and things, sets, mixes and grow. Everything you need is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewport Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And certainly, a look now at the latest weather report as of 12 noon today, the 4th of March, 2025. Our forecaster, the South Glen Antoine. The forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. The winds blowing between the east and the east-southeast near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour. The weather mostly fair skies with possible isolated possible isolated showers, that is. A recap of the forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. The winds blowing between the east and the east-southeast near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour, with the weather mostly fair skies with possibly isolated showers. On to the marine forecast for seas in a 25-mile or 40-kilometer radius from St. Lucia. Presently, we are experiencing low tide at the Cass Street Harbor. The high tide will be at 4 minutes before 8 tonight. And for the Vieux Bay, our low tide will be at 11 minutes before 3 this afternoon, and the high tide will be at 3 minutes after 9 tonight. The seas are locally rough with waves and northeasterly to easterly swells of 6 to 8 feet, the same as 1.8 to 2.4 meters in open waters. Small craft operators and sea bathers, you are advised to exercise caution, and that is due to above normal seas. Now, please be guided. It's pretty high, 6 to 8 feet. All right. On to the forecast for the Lesser Antilles. It's fair to partly cloudy skies with a few brief showers. And the weather summary indicates the Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate easterly winds and locally rough seas across the Eastern Caribbean during the next few days. And shallow patches of low level clouds drifting along with the wind flow will cause a few cloudy periods with brief showers over parts of the region during the next 24 hours. That is, the Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate easterly winds and locally rough seas across the Eastern Caribbean during the next few days. Shallow patches of low level clouds drifting along with this wind flow will cause a few cloudy periods with brief showers over parts of the region during the next 24 hours. That is the official weather report. Don't forget, an advisory out for small craft operators and sea bathers to exercise caution due to above normal seas. Thank you very much, Glenn, for the update at this time. Join us again in the morning at around 7 thereabout when we'll have another official report on the station from the Met Service. The weather was brought to you by Island Style Tile and Bath.
Being RCI's weather news. For more information, call the weather hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island Style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive. In Island Style.
We have tiles and things, sets, mixes and grow. Everything you need is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewport Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom. And of course, we've got about 15 minutes to go before the hour of 2 o'clock. And we're going to try to take in some calls as well at this time. So we're going to head to the phone lines to do just that. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plates
Hello,
today?
Mr. George. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, caller. How are you doing?
All right. How is everybody? Good.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Very
Let me
blessed.
tell you. How long have you been away?
A month.
A month.
Yes, it was off for about a month.
I see you trying to fit in a month of stuff. You wanted to fit in one.
I'm trying to play catch up. We have a lot of catch up to do. Yes.
So you should place it in the various shows. You couldn't do it in one show.
Yeah, well, it'll be impossible to do everything in one show, certainly. So we for the next week, we'll try to do some catch up on some of the issues.
But you said a lot about Trump and all this kind of thing. But the important thing for me here now is the last part of it, the thing with Cuba.
Yes.
No, that's to me that's and that's the new world order. These people trying to create. That's how you put it. That new world order. What is showing there? They want to return and Marco Rubio, that's his name.
Yes.
They want to return Cuba to pre-Castro era. Batista era. You understand? That is what they, and that is not only Cuba, because Trump has long said that people like these island people like us, we are nice shit holes. We just like the Gaza, the thing, and you see the solution he has for Gaza.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's what he wants. He wants to create chaos.
It almost appears, in fact, it doesn't almost appear. It is very clear to me that it's a sort of a return to 19th century imperialism.
Yeah, it's a universal thing here, and we're not in a bubble. We seem to still expect special things from states, privileges and, considerations and so on. But what is really happening is that these people are going to ensure that hard times and chaos overwhelm us. Maybe it wouldn't be bombs like dropping in Gaza and so on. Maybe crime and all the other problems, make our states ungovernable. So then they will move in to say they're helping you. But the terms would be that, you have to, these islands from Cuba right coming down right throughout. It's like as if these islands will have to become, resorts, for the rich and famous, where they just a place they could come down and, enjoy themselves, and we become serfs, and mendicant to them, and they hand us, and we, to a great extent, we have already played ourselves into that kind of situation. Our over-reliance on tourism, makes us very vulnerable already. So and this is where I think we're going, and we must really. It's not just a matter of having a CARICOM meeting and having a response to the declaration as it relates to Cuba, and trying to see if we could get them to reverse that. That's not on Cuba alone. That's an attack on us. Our the whole the Caribbean, all these little states. Trump don't have time or the inclination, and he don't want to pump no money. You see what he did with USAID already,
right?
Into islands like us. You know what I'm saying? No, that's not what is the new order is not all about that. But yes, he could have use for us if we make ourselves like, get away. They could go and sit down in the sun and have the fun, and what I'm saying,
Well, caller, just the way he has treated Ukraine is very inimical of his whole approach.
And that's people that could bring something to the table,
But that's the point, exactly. So, what are we getting out of you?
How we treat them.
What are we getting out of you?
Exactly.
If you want protection, you need to give us a reason to give you protection.
And you say, well, all right, through slate, give us your rare minerals.
That's right.
Your silver and whatever. Start paying paying up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what he asking for his pound of flesh. So what pound of flesh we could give him in St. Lucia, Calixte? Eh?
There's very little that we can offer, and so maybe
But
in a way,
but we ourselves tell ourselves all we have is seawater and sand.
well,
We already surrender to that whole concept,
that's right.
To a lot of the islands, So if we surrender on our own already, so what we could offer to Trump? Come down, man, and build some more hotels, build some more resorts, and you could well see that fitting into the whole concept of even to the leadership, certain people in leadership, or vying for leadership and so on in St. Lucia.
Yes,
because
indeed.
we know what we experience with all this DHH and all this kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah.
know. So
yeah.
So this the chances are that kind of thinking.
It's ironic that you're raising that, that whole thing of DSH, because I was just thinking to myself
but
that one of the few things that we were able to offer the United States was during the World War II, when you had this whole bases for ships agreement. The British said, "Hey, we need ships, so we will give you the rights to set up bases in our islands." And so
we are serious coal port,
Yeah, and so because of the need to defend the Panama Canal as a significant trading link, right? The Americans constructed these bases along the island arc, and we, of course, were a very critical point for that because of our proximity to Martinique, which was under Nazi control and whatnot. So it's ironic because that was one of the few things that we had, and we got back in the 1960s during the George Charles era. But now we've given away so much of it again through DSH.
There you go. You see. So, but there is things we have to think. These things are not just said over our heads and above us that we see that Trump saying that up in America. Look at what he's trying to do and making a big excitement debate whether Trump mad or he ain't mad. The point is, we have taken this man his word too lightly from the time he came into elective politics.
Right.
The things, the pronouncements he's been making.
You're right. There were a lot of people who kept on saying, you know what, Trump is just all talk. Don't worry about him. He's going to disappear within a couple. Give him a year, and he'll be out playing golf for the rest of the term. Yeah.
Yeah, we see now. So that's the kind of thing we face there now. How do we, you remove, position our people to be resilient to what is coming, Anyway, thanks, my brother.
Thanks very much for that contribution, caller.
Yeah, man.
Have yourself a good one. And of course, we are trying to play a little bit of catch up. Of course, the number to call in is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. But it is very apparent that when you're looking at the issues, I mean, especially in terms of healthcare, for example, and I was just raising it in the context of what the United Workers' Party has put forward as their critical platform of areas of concern, and I suppose areas of redress, that of healthcare, crime, and cost of living. The cost of living one, as we've said, is very, very difficult to control because it seems to be so very much tied to the global vagaries of trade and where our products are coming from. I mean, there was a nice call to action, so to speak, by the CARICOM. We heard of 25 by 25, 25%, a reduction of 25% of our imports of food by the year 2025. Guess what? We're in 2025 right now. And I'd hazard a guess that in many countries in the Caribbean, our import bill has actually increased in terms of food stuffs. But let's take another call at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Back.
Thank you very much, caller. Good to be
No,
back.
I did enjoy Mr.
You enjoyed Mr. Dolo as well. Good stuff.
You're doing a 4-course every day.
A 4-course meal. Indeed.
You get a little appetizer.
Uh-huh.
What is nice. Just what Mr. Since we was talking about the thing about the Cubans,
Mm-hmm.
I think I also heard it citing from yesterday morning, and I heard they said that the CARICOM is trying to have a meeting with them. But why would you want to do that? And yes, you want to push your people on us because right now we have American from what they call them, the medical, whatever it is, the ship here right now from the 25th to the 8th.
Okay.
Seeing people at the at OKEU, at the Ancillary Health Center, even at the local health center.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want people to accept and it is stated is medical. Those are the medical.
Yeah, it was pretty bizarre. I mean, I well appreciate that Mr. Rubio has his connections with Cuba, his history with Cuba, and as you know, somebody coming of that heritage. But it was a very interesting thought that this was one of the first actions that they would be so keen on putting out there, and
as a descendant to do it.
Yeah, and to target that program specifically as well. Like, it was just
because
really,
it is
really
needed by almost every CARICOM country that has them. They're needed.
And the idea that is, I remember visiting Cuba in, I think it was 2014, and at that time you were seeing a lot of change in Havana. In terms of, there's a lot of construction as well. You had a lot of tourism happening, and you saw a lot of new vehicles on the road, right?
Yeah.
You were seeing Audis and BMWs, high-end cars, and those high-end cars were in fact Cuban doctors, right? Cuban professionals who had gone overseas, who had gotten good salaries, and who had now come back, right, to Cuba.
Yes.
Right? And they were able to now afford these things, so the idea is definitely having a positive impact. So the idea this is forced labor, it's a bit of a stretch, in my view. I'm not saying, I don't know, we don't know all the details. Maybe there's something that is going on somewhere, and this is what they're trying to suggest. But it's definitely not happening in the majority of the Caribbean, that's for sure.
I think, and it is wrong what they're doing, because and what got me more upset, there's a St. Lucian guy that called the news. He lived in St. Lucia for a while, but now he lives in Vermont. He's married to a white woman. He is now a MAGA, and he is one that is there with Trump, and he find that those people are coming in and taking in the dollar, the tax thing, and also complaining. And I said, my goodness, you're from St. Lucia. It had to take you being married to a white woman up there to make you a citizen. And right now, you have a problem. You support everything that Trump is doing.
Caller, a lot of individuals, and I think I made the point before, even before the election, that you found a lot of individuals who were traditionally supporters of the Democrats, who traditionally would not have bought in. A lot of immigrants bought into this idea that immigrants were the problem. And I could only describe it as immigrant privilege, right? That you've now gone across there, and you're now better off than everybody. You therefore have this idea of superiority towards others outside, and they're now the problem.
Look down at others.
And right, and so and then you hear the same rhetoric, like, oh, these are the people who are causing the crimes, right? When all the data is suggesting that immigrants, undocumented immigrants, right, are less responsible for crime than citizens, right? And for obvious reasons. If you're an undocumented person, you want to get yourself in trouble. You want to
be working hard to make better for yourself and your family.
You're trying to be a very quiet mouse in the wall, I mean,
and
so
all of them. And I'm hoping that yesterday, when J.D. Vance went to Vermont on a skiing trip, he already took vacation, went on a skiing, and there was a lot of protest. I said, I hope he was there to protect J.D. Vance, because the way you call it, I mean, you're St. Lucian, and you're saying, oh, now things are much better because you find all these Mexicans and this and that who coming in and taking all the jobs and all sorts of things. They're getting all the people. Come on.
Yeah, there's an interesting video, I think, of this Venezuelan lady who was on a Trump platform talking about how they love Trump, and he's going to be great for. But of course, because so many Venezuelans have left Venezuela, over the years, and a number of them are in the United States, and they got what is known as a temporary protection, so they were able to stay.
It has taken away,
and it's been taken away.
Yeah,
And many of these people now, I guess it's more than buyer's remorse. They felt as if they were used. They feel as if they've been betrayed, and this has been playing out.
He rather kill himself than go back.
It's playing off in a lot of these immigrant communities who, for one reason or another, decided to identify as MAGA, identify as a Trump supporter. A lot of Muslim Americans, many of them in Michigan, took a position they were not going to be supporting Biden because of Gaza, and somehow thought that Trump was going to be different and he was going to bring something else.
That's fun.
Well, look at what he's suggesting.
Hotels,
Riviera, the Gazan Riviera, indeed. So I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a learning time, a time for learning. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it all happens. But there's clearly no mistaking it this time around. Mr. Trump is here to play ball. He is moving very quickly on very many fronts.
Quickly with everything. Everything is like at speed. It's going. No time to waste.
Yes, indeed.
And before I didn't need to say to especially women that are going up for election. I think they go up, but when they reach there, they become I wouldn't say they are a woman. They become part of the we, as in WE, men. Because I'm listening to a lady that is will be going up for election some time ago. She called the program. It was a program called a Love Zone, and the topic was about fathers not paying the
child support,
alimony, and all sorts of things. And there you are as a woman that will be going up, but she is saying she can understand the $200 is not good and all sorts of things. So, but she's saying to the woman, when the man put his $200 there, you put your 200 there on the table there too to back it up. And how you cannot say that to how many women? I can understand women, prominent women of privilege, women that have high-end jobs that are paid very, very well. So they don't usually depend on a man to give them money, even though the man has divorced. They have it all to provide for the children. Usually the women you're going to find going and sick for that money in the courthouse and everything. It's usually young women and even some older women that are maybe working in places where the salary cannot make ends meet. So they usually depend. So how you can sell them when the man put his $200, you put your $200 on the table to the bucket. How many of them could do that? Come on, and you say you want to go up for election, and this is what you're saying to women.
Well, I mean, I would hazard a guess that invariably women are even putting even more than that. But I mean, that's the reality of it. There are a lot of situations where women are doing the majority of the support for raising their children, both financially and in terms of the sweat equity that they're putting in. But I would say that definitely the issue is, hey, we've been speaking about this for a very long time. The matter of is that $200 minimum a sufficient minimum, given the cost of children, and should it be something that varies with age or whatever it is? But we need to get perhaps some traction in the law in changing the laws with respect to that.
Increase it.
So in terms of increasing it. So I mean, it's not really asking women to put in, because I'm pretty certain women are already doing it.
But she did say they have to put in the 200. If the man put the 200, you now as a woman show you more and put it up. But how many of them can do that? I can understand if you had said to the women who can afford.
Well, they must be doing it, caller, because I don't know that you can raise a child on $200. So I mean, they must already be putting in, if you get what I'm saying, right? So to say that they have to put in two is, it's a sort of is no point at all. I mean, because it's happening.
Because the woman is already doing all the hard work.
It's happening. It's happening. So I think, though, it is an issue that we've been talking about as a society for such a long time. I mean, goodness. that it needs some attention in terms of
But it don't seem to be getting any attention.
well,
And then they are, as I tell you, they are women that in there. Women are coming in there and they just pay no mind to those things. Because as far as they're concerned, when they come, it's just like I said, women are coming there and you have young girls that are being killed, young girls, all kinds of things are happening. Do they hear they say anything? Some of them.
It's kind of like the minimum wage, that issue. It's been dragging on for a very long time. I mean, the case of the minimum wage, thankfully, yes, it happened.
Yeah, and I'm happy for
so
that.
I'm hoping that matter is another one that needs to be looked at from a very clinical way, a very objective way, to figure out what is a reasonable way of crafting this. The argument against raising it has always been, is how can you force a guy if he doesn't have the money to do, that kind of thing. But I'm sure that we should be looking more at, well, maybe what is the means of the individual, maybe based on the salary.
Yeah, I can understand
income.
that because there are some guys I am sure that cannot afford it.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot afford it. Sometimes, they have a children
and in those instances, then the big question is there a role for the state in coming in there too? In terms of providing
the social programs,
in terms of providing the social programs and social care,
they get it. I guess I know there are some,
because in some instances, some of these children don't even have parents. That's the other sad reality of it too, caller. You may think that in the okay, well, the mother is dead, it's a single family situation. Sometimes it's a zero parent situation. The mother may have gone overseas, the child is being raised by a relative, and who may or may not be providing the kind of care. So it's something, you have some very difficult situations.
Yeah, because I don't know if you heard this story. It was last week in the news. This mother, she went to work on the cruise ship. She has been out working on the cruise ship, and she left her young daughter with the dad. Now the child is 14 years now. And apparently the dad, I suppose, maybe missing, the child mother is not there. So he used the daughter as his woman. And now I think as of last year, he is at body laid.
Wow.
So, yeah, because I suppose the mother not there, so you will have to replace your mother. But right now, he's at body laid, and she is seeking help for the 14-year-old. And she said this child is cutting up herself. She's running away. She's facing all kinds of problems. She has gone to different places, the human services, so many different places. Now, she said at the end of the day, she can understand. She left her child as a young girl and went and tried to make a better life on the cruise ship, not realizing that her own dad
would have
messed her life up so bad. But now she's just seeking enough, help for that 14-year-old daughter. So sometimes you might leave your child if somebody you think that is, that especially a mom or dad, that will be responsible and protect them, and they are the ones that may really destroy them. So when you said, finally speak saying women have, women should do this and do that, it is difficult. Because how can I live with my daughter with you, which is also your daughter, go and work to better life for maybe all three of us? You might not, and then you're messing her up like that. And now I come back and I don't even have a control.
That's horrendous, caller. But thank you for sharing, keeping us in the know. Definitely. And we're going to have to end it here, unfortunately.
Right,
because
take care.
Bye-bye. We're already out over time. But again, thanks very much for calling in. And we'll be back again tomorrow, God willing, for another program of The Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Have a good one.